The big question that's on everyone's lips right now. It's in the headlines and causing a lot of anxiety. Is the Australian housing market about to crash? If you've been reading the news lately, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the sky is caving in. But before we all run for the hills, let's take a deep breath and look at what's really going on. Today I'm going to break down exactly what I'm seeing on the ground, what it means for sellers, what it means for buyers, and what agents need to be doing right now to survive and thrive in this changing market. Now let's get into it. Now let's take a walk down memory lane. I've been in real estate now for almost 20 years. So that's 2 decades of open homes, auctions, late night negotiations, and navigating the emotional roller coaster of buyers and sellers. I've seen it all. I've experienced every type of market condition that you can possibly imagine. In fact, I remember when I started my career back in 2007, it was right in the middle of an unprecedented boom. The market was so red hot. It felt like you could stick a for sale sign up in a pile of dirt and it would sell above asking price within a day. There were open homes of 50 groups standing outside when you were showing up to your open home 10 minutes early. You know, the energy was electric. People were scrambling over each other, making crazy offers. They were sending offers through without seeing the property first and buying it with, over asking price. And then, at that time, I thought, oh my God, real estate is so easy. What a joke. A dog could sell real estate, because I was just watching my lead agent walk into these properties, have a rush of buyers, walk out, receive 10 offers and, just present the best one to the seller and they'd take it. It was just so easy. And then 3 weeks into my career, at the height of this boom, there was talk of these banks in America closing down, Lehman Brothers, and there was this, on the horizon massive catastrophe happening. And then all of a sudden, the GFC hit. And let me tell you, it was like someone flipped the switch. Almost overnight, the music stopped. I went from managing these crowd-controlled open homes to standing in empty living rooms, listening to the crickets. Literally no one was showing up. I remember the first open home where we had 0 to the open home and I couldn't believe it. Because for 3 weeks we were showing multiple properties with just so many buyers. The inquiry was just through the roof. And then about 2 weeks into this GFC, we were having open homes. I still remember the first open home where we had no one there. I was so shocked. So I couldn't fathom what to tell the owner. I was saying to my lead agent, what the hell are you going to tell the owner that no one showed up? This was not normal, right? And the fear in the market was palpable. People were terrified that they were going to lose their jobs, their savings. The stock market was just crumbling and crashing, even though this catastrophe had nothing to do really with the Australian economy or the market here. The effect that American disaster in their finance industry had hugely impacted our markets here. And let me tell you now, that was a crash, right? That was a really, really strong change in the market very suddenly, right? A similar situation occurred after the 2011 floods in Brisbane. The market was already suffering off the back of this GFC. And then the floods came and it was like a big kick in the guts while the market was already down. So a real crash is a systematic shock to the system where demand, it evaporates instantly. It's not some gradual softening of prices over a long period of time. It's sudden, violent. It's just a complete halt to transaction volume. We also felt that at the beginning of COVID when everything shut down for a month. That was a crash. It had a quick recovery, unlike these other crashes that were longer impact. Now, when people today and the media, they start throwing around the word crash because clearance rates drop a few percentage points or median prices soften slightly, I have to laugh. right? Having lived through the GFC on the front lines of real estate, it gives you a perspective that you just can't get from reading a textbook. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you that markets are cyclical. They go up and down, but the sky rarely actually falls in like those extreme moments in the GFC. So when we talk about the current market, let's just try and keep things into perspective. We are not in 2008. We are in a totally different environment with different drivers, right? I still remember the smell of empty houses. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the media. If you consume real estate news purely through the mainstream media, you're going to give yourself whiplash. The media has a really specific job, and that job is to capture your attention, sell subscriptions, generate clicks, and how do they do that? Through sensationalism, right? The reality is that the media always makes the market sound way better or way worse than it actually is. They operate in extremes because extremes sell. You'll never ever see the front page headline that says, real estate market ticking along nicely with medium interest. That's boring. It doesn't trigger an emotional response. Instead, they always say something like, massive unprecedented boom, where you have to buy this second or miss out forever, or impending catastrophic crash incoming that's going to wipe out your entire family's wealth, right? They want to, really shock you. So they'll take a single data point, maybe a slight dip in building approvals or a single weekend of auction results, and they extrapolate it into like some doomsday event scenario. Or conversely, they find out that one property sold for a crazy price, and then they use it to declare a new golden age of real estate that's coming. As an agent, a buyer, or a seller, you have to learn to filter out this noise. You have to develop a thick skin against the sensationalist headlines. The real estate market, it's a massive beast. It's slow moving. It doesn't turn on a dime based on 1 week's news cycle. It's influenced by a complex web of macroeconomic factors, local demographics, and also long-term trends. Its movements are usually far more gradual and nuanced than the headlines suggest. I always tell my clients to look at the motivation behind the articles they read. Fear and greed are the two most powerful emotions in investing, and the media plays on both of them masterfully. So during a boom, they need the FOMO, the fear of missing out. During a slowdown, they feed the fear. If you make your financial decisions based on what you read in the paper, you will always be reacting emotionally and usually too late to the party. You need to focus on the actual data in your specific local market. Talk to the professionals who are on the ground every day. Get out there and make inspections for yourself and make your decisions based on reality, not on newspaper hype. And don't even get me started on the clickbait. Mate, it's a race to the bottom for attention. They will find the one economist out of 100 who predicts a 40% drop, and then suddenly that's the headline everywhere. They ignore the 99 economists out of 100 predicting a mild correction because mild correction doesn't generate ad revenue. It's a game and you have to know you're being played. The next time you see a headline screaming about a housing crash, just take a deep breath, would you? Put the phone down, go look at actually what's being sold in your target suburb in the last 30 days. That's what the real story is. So if we aren't heading for a crash, what is exactly happening? This is what I believe, and the data supports this, that we are going to experience a period of decline. It's but nothing tragic. It's a necessary cooling off period, you could call it. And it's driven by several key macroeconomic factors, in my opinion. First and foremost being that we've simply been booming for too long. You can't have a double-digit capital growth year after year indefinitely. It's just mathematically unsustainable. The market needs to catch its breath. It's just like running a sprint. Eventually, you have to slow down to a jog for a little bit. Secondly, we have the massive issue of inflation. The cost of living is rising at a rate we haven't seen in decades. I mean, think about the last time you went to the grocery store. you go out with 2 bags, it's $200. You know, I used to fit a whole shopping trolley for $200 not long ago. I'm talking, 4 or 5 years ago. It's literally feels like everything's double now. Groceries, petrol, energy bills, insurance, everything's more expensive. And this inflation, it eats directly into those household budgets. And when people are spending more on basic necessities, they have less discretionary income to save for a deposit. And crucially, it reduces their borrowing capacity. And when the banks assess how much you can borrow, they factor in your living expenses. Higher expenses means a lower loan amount. And when people can borrow less, they can pay less. So it's a simple equation. Then you add in the global instability. We have these ongoing wars. We've had Russia, Ukraine going for a while, but the new war, the Trump war, that is really affecting, supply chain, big disruptions, geopolitical tensions, the fuel supply. And these events, they're creating this global economic uncertainty. And markets, whether it's the stock market or the housing market, they absolutely hate uncertainty. People like to sit on the fence when they don't know what's going on. When people are uncertain about the future, they just tend to hold off on making massive financial commitments, and they adopt the let's wait and see approach. So all of these factors combined at the end of a long boom, biting inflation, the rising cost of living, global instability, they're all going to put enough pressure on the market to bring the prices down. However, I firmly believe that it will be a slow, manageable decline over the next 12 to 18 months, not this sudden cliff edge drop, unless we go into something drastic like a proper World War III, okay? If it gets seriously drastic, or, we do see that, like, our country runs out of fuel reserves, or something just massive happens that really freaks people out again, we could see that sudden massive crash in the market, right? But even if there is something like that, like a fuel reserve drop off, let's say we run out of fuel as a nation, we run out of fuel. We've got no fuel. Businesses stop. They come to a halt. The market will literally tank. It will go overnight. No one will be buying. But I can tell you what, if you buy during one of these times, which is easily going to sort itself out within a short period of time, most likely, you will be a massive winner, right? It's like when the COVID pandemic happened, and for that first month, every business shut down, the world shut down. It was like the zombie apocalypse. There were people selling properties for 30%, 40% less on panic selling within that month. And if you were brave enough to buy, going, hey, this is going to turn around quickly, like everyone's freaking out. If you were one of those buyers and you pulled the trigger, man, did you clean up, right? So it's also important to note that this decline, it won't be uniform, right? Real estate, it's highly localized. So prices usually start to fail more in the luxury sector, and we're actually seeing that already, right? So they'll be more affected than the entry-level properties, because people always need somewhere to live, but people don't need to upgrade necessarily. So the lower end will always hold up stronger in a decline, because if people don't have more money, then they don't need to buy that coastal home. They don't need to upgrade from the 4-bedroom to the 6-bedroom. They just want that stuff. And so when the market's having some trouble and there's less money around, it's the people that want the bigger, nicer stuff that generally just go, oh, well, maybe we just stick here for a while. But people who don't have a home still need a home. So the lower end will still do relatively better than that higher end. Okay? Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the content. Just quickly, if you're interested in knowing what it might look like for you to own your own real estate business and brand, then that's what me and my team do. We help agents to create, run, and grow their own agency and brand so they can earn higher commissions and set up a better life for themselves. If you're interested in what that might look like, just click the link in the show notes and book a call with me or one of my team members, and we'll find out whether or not this is a good fit for you. Now let's get back to the episode. So I want to speak on this next point as well to agents out there who are listening to this, because I know a changing market can be intimidating, especially if you've only ever known a boom. And there's a lot of agents who are listening to this who probably got in just after COVID. All you've seen is that properties sell easily, and so you've just been training yourself to get listings, and then they just sell, right? Now we're going into this market where you need to really hone in on your skills. And listen to me loud and clear, agents. You don't need to panic. Just take a deep breath and hone in on your skills, because every single market, regardless of whether it's going to be up or down or sideways, there's opportunities, okay? Let's be brutally honest for a second. In a strong market, in a booming market, our job, once we've listed the property, is relatively easy, right? Properties practically sell themselves, okay? The hardest part is probably just getting all that competition together and sorting out all the offers and getting it up to the highest price. But, that's generally a lot better than not being able to have any offers on the table at all, and you're working with nothing, right? So, when it's booming, you stick a sign in the ground, you throw some photos on the internet, you chuck a video online, you wait for the multiple offers to roll in. Frankly, in a booming market, you don't need a really high level of skill to make a decent living if you're getting listings, right? But in a weaker market, the game changes entirely, right? This is the environment that separates the true professionals from the order takers. In a slower market, there are more listings around because properties take longer to sell. Inventory builds up on the market. This means that buyers, they have more choices, and they're not forced to compromise or overpay out of desperation. And when buyers have choices, sellers, they need skilled representation more than ever, right? This is where your negotiation skills become your most valuable asset. The agents who know how to communicate value, who know how to handle complex objections, who know how to manage vendor expectations, and who know how to close a deal when things are getting tough, those are the agents who are going to earn heaps. Okay, think of a tough market as a filter. It literally filters out the part-timers, the lazy agents, the ones who rely purely on market momentum. So if you're willing to put in the work now to sharpen your skills and to truly serve your clients, this is your time to shine. The overall transaction volume might decrease a bit, but your personal market share can actually increase if you outwork and you outskill your competition, right? The best agents in the business, they build their empires during the downturns. So during the downturns, they double down on their training, they improve their processes, and they focus on providing exceptional service when everyone else was just complaining, pointing the finger at the market, hanging their head down and, thinking that they might get out of real estate. Don't view a declining market as a threat. View it as an arena where your professional skills can make a tangible, profitable difference. Like, I've seen agents who were superstars in 2021, and I look at their results now, it looks like they've completely fallen apart in 2026 because they didn't know how to actually sell. All they knew was how to put a property on the market and show people through. The ones who thrive now are the ones who understand the psychology of a hesitant buyer, and they know how to build value. They know how to highlight the potential in a property. They know how to negotiate a win-win scenario that gets the deal across the line. So which type of agent are you going to be? Are you going to be the one that just points the finger and says this is all too hard? Or are you going to upskill yourself? Are you going to put more energy into your inspections? Are you going to ask better questions to the buyers coming through? Are you going to double down on your vendor communication and education? Because let me tell you, the agents that do this stuff, they are going to reap the rewards. They're the ones that are going to stick it out. They're going to make good money during this downturn. And when it turns around, Those agents are the ones that absolutely clean up, and they build absolutely bulletproof reputations and careers on the back of these downward markets. Okay? Which brings me to the next concept of the long game. Okay, real estate, it isn't a get rich quick scheme. Okay, sorry guys, right? If you got in this for quick money, it's not. You got to build that sustainable career as an agent, right? It's just not a sprint. It's a marathon. And what happens during these hard times, right? It dictates your success when the good times inevitably return, right? Because make no mistake, the market will turn around again. It always does. This is just a cycle. We will see the growth again. And when that happens, who's going to benefit the most? Like I said, it's going to be those agents who have stuck it out through the hard times. While other agents are back, reducing their spend on things, hiding in their office, they're letting their relationships slide because deals are too hard. They're not calling back anyone because no one's doing anything at the moment. They're not calling buyers because, the buyers don't want any of the properties. So they're just negging themselves out. They're taking more time off. Nah, you need to be highly visible. You got to be out there talking to everyone. You've got to be the most active agent who's providing value, providing market updates, building trust. You gotta work this and work it to your advantage. Because when you help a client to navigate a difficult, declining market, like when you hold their hand through that stressful buying process and secure a good result for the seller as well, despite the conditions, you earn a different level of loyalty that, you simply can't buy. You become their trusted advisor for life. They become a raving fan of yours that then refers you business and then sells their future properties with you. Now let's shift gears, and I want to talk directly to the sellers, right? If you're putting your property on the market right now, or if you're already on the market, you need a serious reality check, okay? The strategies that were working 6 months or maybe a year ago, they're going to fail miserably today. The absolute biggest mistake you can make in a declining market is being stubborn with your price. You have to look closely at the comparable sales that are happening right now, okay? Not the ones that are sitting on the market unsold and not the ones that sold 6 months ago. The market is speaking to you through the selling prices that are happening in the market today, selling this weekend. That is the reality of what buyers are willing to pay today. You can't afford to play the game of sitting with an inflated price, crossing your fingers and just seeing what happens. In a rising market, that's fine. Time's your friend. If you overprice your home, the market might eventually catch up to your expectations. But in a declining market, time is your enemy. Every single week every single week your property sits on the market unsold, it becomes stale, and the price could have moved a slight percentage point. Buyers, they start to wonder what's wrong with it, and its perceived value will drop just because it's been on the market for longer. And then if the market drops on top of that in terms of overall value, you're in a sticky situation. Now, what about the buyers? This is where things get really interesting. So if you're a buyer, the power dynamic is slowly shifting back in your favor, and it hasn't been there for a long time. So you should be getting ready to buy. If you're not ready right now, then get shit sorted, right? Get your pre-approval locked in, start researching heavily in your target areas, know the areas you want to buy, and listen to me, please. If you're a buyer, take this advice. Please buy when no one else is buying. If you had bought during the period of the GFC or after the Brisbane floods and then you sat and waited for the market to turn, you made an absolute packet. You absolutely cleaned up. You made so much money, and good for you, because you took a risk and you didn't just follow the crowd. And here is just another crucial piece of advice I can give you as a buyer. Don't try and time the bottom. It's impossible. Seriously, nobody, even the top economists, they don't know. They don't have a crystal ball. There's no point trying to time the bottom, right? If you sit on the sidelines waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the absolute bottom, you'll miss it. I guarantee it. You won't pick the bottom. You'll botch it. You'll watch prices drop. You'll convince yourself they're going to drop further. And then suddenly the sentiment will shift. Interest rates will stabilize. Inflation might cool and the market turns. And when it turns, it can turn quickly. And then all of a sudden prices are rising again and you're in competition on the next property you want to buy. Okay? You don't want that. Your goal should not be to buy at the absolute bottom. Your goal should just be to find a good deal anytime between now and the next 12 to 18 months. Now, let's go back to the agents because your role has never been more critical. And first and foremost, you need to upgrade your negotiation skills immediately. So whatever you need to do, the best thing to do is role play with people in your office. If you can't do that, then read books, take advanced courses, but honestly, role play's the best. You can even role play with ChatGPT now. So you've got to become a master negotiator to extract the best possible price for your vendors in a tough market, but to also help educate your sellers. Negotiation is also getting the price down by educating sellers and helping them to understand that they need to get their price right. And thirdly, you need to be able to negotiate with the buyers. You need to be able to sell the property, sell the area, sell the potential of this property and how they can make money from buying it. Okay. Secondly, do not overpromise in your listing presentations, right? The days of buying listings and inflating the estimated selling price just to win the business, they're done. If you do that now, you're just setting yourself and your vendor up for a miserable experience, okay? So you've got to master your dialogue around price. You need to be able to have those tough, honest, evidence-based conversations with owners about what their property is actually worth. Don't just agree with them to get the listing. An overpriced listing is actually a liability in this market. It'll drain your time and your energy, okay? Now, you do need to give sellers hope, but you need to be strategic in how you deliver that conversation about price. Education is your biggest weapon, okay? You need to educate your sellers immediately, even before the first open home. So if you just got that listing, I would be calling them the next day to just say, oh, hey, just letting you know what happened on this other property. It's the first week and this has just happened, right? I'm just telling you this because I don't want you to be disappointed if we come to the weekend and we don't get as many inspections because I'm seeing it happen with a few others that are in the same price range. You've got to be communicating really well all the time, twice, 3 times as much as usual to educate those sellers and be doing it like whenever there's an inspection, whenever something's happening in the market that you think's relevant to that property, you've got to be educating them, right? They need that real on the market feedback in real time. You also need to know every single sale in your area, okay? You've got to be the local expert. So when a buyer, they ask you about a comparable sale, you have to know the details. You have to know why that property 2 streets away sold for what it did. You need to know that for the buyer coming through the property. You need to know so that you can educate the seller to get them priced right. Explain to them exactly why houses sold for the prices they did and help them to see the value. You've got to be able to clearly identify why the property you are selling is such a great opportunity. I mentioned this, right? Buyers, they're looking for an opportunity to make money or at least to secure a solid asset for their future. They're all freaking out, all right? They need to understand why buying this listing is a smart financial move in the long run. So have some points about that, about each of the properties you're selling. Why is this a good financial investment for anyone? Also help them to understand that buying when no one else is buying is being contrarian. That is how wealth is created. And finally, engage with people. Don't just stand there at the door and let buyers walk in to your open homes and you're not even talking to them. Don't be lazy. You've got to get back to selling property, right? You've got to look the part. You've got to look professional. You've got to be asking great questions, building rapport. Obviously, don't be annoying and don't point out stupid stuff like, oh, here's the kitchen, here's the bathroom. No. And you also want to be giving space when a buyer wants space. So you can ask the question. You can say, hey, I'd love to show you some features of this home. If you would prefer to walk around and just have a look by yourself and we can talk at the end, we can do that. Or I can give you a guided tour. Which one would you prefer, right? Even just asking that question would make that buyer go, wow, this guy or this girl, they really know their job. They really know how to sell. So guys, during these slower times, You have a golden opportunity to get back to basics, right? You can get back to the warm prospecting because you're not so busy with sales and listings. In the boom times, we all get too busy, right? We're all running from appraisal to open home to auction. We're writing contracts late into the night. No one's got enough time to prospect properly and lay down the foundations for the future business. Experienced agents, they often get lazy, right? The phone's ringing, they're selling, the leads are coming in effortlessly. So what they do is they stop contacting their old clients and they stop doing that, basic nurturing that we all know works so well, right? So when the leads are drying up, this is the time for action, right? If you're a new agent, this is your absolute best chance to swoop in and take control of those neglected relationships, right? Call all those people in the marketplace that the lazy agents in your area are ignoring. Offer them value. Offer them an updated market appraisal. Try and have a conversation with them. Show them that you care. If you're an experienced agent, it's time to wake up. You need to reestablish those connections. Otherwise, someone else will, right? Pick up the phone. Check in on your past buyers and sellers. There's always something to do. See how they're doing. See if their real estate needs have changed. I bet you there's hundreds of agents listening to this right now who've been too busy in the past couple of years to call back all the buyers that have bought properties off them for a check-in, right? These prospecting activities, these phone calls, the check-ins, the personalized market updates to past clients, the anniversary cards, these are the activities that you do now in this slower market that will make you all the money when the market turns around again. Real estate, we all know it. It's a delayed gratification process. And prospecting is the lifeblood of this business. It's the engine that drives everything else. If you stop putting fuel in the engine, then eventually the car's going to stop. Look, it might coast for a while when it runs out of fuel, but eventually that momentum, it'll stop. So you've got to get back into the habit of doing things like blocking out 2 hours every single morning, turning off your phone notifications, closing down your emails, and just make the calls. Okay, it's not glamorous, but that's what it is. That's going to guarantee your future income. Stop thinking about what everyone else is doing or what the market's doing, and just do the calls. Get back to the basics, right? This gets me to my final point, all right, which is perhaps the most important, and that's regarding your mindset and your longevity in this industry. You got to stop complaining. You got to stop bitching. Stop whining. Stop looking at what everyone else is doing. Stop thinking that you're being beaten because someone's got a prettier signboard than you or their brochures are nicer. No, it's a changing market. You haven't changed, right? This is predictable. It's an economic cycle. It happens. It's happened many times before and it'll happen again. Complaining about it isn't going to work, right? That just drains your energy, to be honest, and it puts you in a negative, unproductive headspace. You can't control the macroeconomic environment, and you can't control what the newspapers print on their front pages. So quit whinging, stop worrying about it, and just worry about what you're doing right here, right now, and what actions you're taking to get more future business. So that's what I think. That's what I reckon's going on in the housing market. I don't see a imminent crash. Yes, it is changing, absolutely. It's going to require more skill, more effort, and more resilience from everyone involved, 100%, right? For sellers, be simple, be realistic, price it right, okay? For buyers, get ready. Don't try and time the bottom of the market. Just buy a good opportunity in the next 12 to 18 months. And the agents, the ones who are doing the hard work right now and getting back to prospecting, basic relationship building, they're the ones who are going to survive and they're going to kill it in the next boom. Okay, so guys, stay focused and you'll come out on top. Thanks for tuning in. Please give us a like, give us a share. I make all this content for free for you guys to improve your careers. So anything you can do to help the algorithm or share it with another person, it means the world. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Get Keen. Thanks for tuning into the Get Keen podcast. If today's episode got you thinking about starting your own real estate business and building your own brand, Plum Partners may be able to help. Book a call using the link in the show notes, and let's see if we're the right fit to help you create, run, and grow your own real estate brand. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and follow me on Instagram at Dan_Lee_Plum. Until next time, keep getting keen.